For the last episode of Season 1 of The Landline, we're talking to East Cleveland Municipal Court Judge William Dawson. He's also known as the Yogi Judge. We're talking about all of his different ways of sentencing people in his courtroom and why maybe leaning more toward yoga can not only help us refresh our minds and our bodies, but stay out of trouble.
I had a conversation with someone the other day. I was on a panel, and then afterward we talked, and he said, you know what? I never thought about how it feels to be a black male judge. Like, no one really thinks about on the landscape of, entertainers, politicians. What about being a judge, someone who can actually sentence someone who looks like you, send them to jail, financially penalize them? How does that make you feel? And, it was an interesting question. And I was like, wow, you do have to think about that, because there's a burden, there's a load from that responsibility that, you have to be willing to carry if you care about people.
Yeah.
And I think I do. No, I do. I absolutely do.
Sometimes when you have to lay down the law, though, it probably feels like you don't.
Yeah.
To other people.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'll go, to be honest with you, I'll go from 0 to 60 really quickly because I'm always trying to give you a break. So if I come with extreme compassion, extreme understanding, I'm speaking to you like a human being that you deserve to be spoken to like. But then if you disrespect me or you don't take advantage of the opportunity, I turn really quickly.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's where they're looking at like, I thought you were this nice judge. I thought you cared about your people. But in reality, I'm going to show you my care and concern, because now you have to learn. There's a lesson behind this that you're going to have to experience. So
how do you know when people are ready, when people are on that line? Like, now you actually need to learn a hard lesson rather than learning from your pathways that you have set up.
Aria, it's interesting because I've been doing it so long that it doesn't take me long to read a person. So when you're standing in front of me at the court, I can tell really quickly if you have remorse for what you've done, if there's some sense of understanding. But when you have the hard line that I didn't do anything wrong, it's everyone else. It was the police officer. It was the stop sign. It was the stop light for turning too fast. It was the person who disrespected me in the store. When you never get a chance to see that you played a part in it, that's when I can tell, you know what, this person needs this other side. They may not benefit from the programs of transforming your mind and your thoughts. They may need to go to jail first. And that's the hard part, because then like you said, I have to go home and live with that. But at the end of the day, I remind myself, I'm not the one who committed the offense. I didn't send them to jail. They did. Their actions sent them to jail.
Yeah. And their lack of accountability.
Absolutely.
I sit in court sometimes for the news, and I hear the judge say sometimes, like, you didn't acknowledge your part in this. And I'm going to remember that. And then they hand out their sentence, and I'm like, ew.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't know you went to other courts. I thought you only came to East Cleveland. But, okay, I'll share you with the other courts. But, yeah, that's exactly how we feel. It's like we want to hear that you understand what happened. And you understand, hey, if I would have made a better decision, then maybe the outcome would have been different. And if we can see that as judges, then we're willing to work with you. But as long as your hard stance is, I didn't do anything wrong, judge, and you're wrong, everyone else is wrong, then you're setting yourself up. And, I tell people all the time, and I hate to say it like this, but in reality, the courtroom is really like a stage. It's a performance. There's something in my courtroom. I put up a different quotes, and the one that's up there now says, before you come to court, put on your best. And I'm not talking about your clothes, but I'm talking about your attitude, the way you walk, the way you talk, because it is a performance. Everyone is looking at you, especially the judge, from the moment I call your name. And unfortunately, I'm judging you from that moment on. So your entire situation will be dependent upon how you present yourself in court. And you can sway it either way by being nice, taking responsibility, being respectful to the court, or it can go the other way as soon as you walk up and you're disrespectful.
What does disrespect look like to you in a courtroom?
Disrespect looks like this. Your pants are hanging down. You won't put a belt on. You walk up and you're like, yo, what's up, judge? Man, all of that.
Someone has said that to you before?
All the time. And a lot of times but let me tell you, Aria, I can tell when it's disrespect or just the way someone communicates or they're nervous. I can really
Okay.
tell if you're doing it because you're nervous, because sometimes just like, oh, I'm sorry, judge. But other people will get up and they will be intentional about saying, hey, I'm going to be my authentic self today. This is who I am. But again, they're missing the point that this is a performance. Your life is at stake. Your freedom is at stake. You don't want to play a game of authenticity and end up in jail. And
Yeah.
keeping it real in jail. So, I mean, what's the point of that?
People always say in life, you got to learn how to play the game. But here, I don't want you to play the game. I just want you to be you.
Yeah.
The game is being yourself
That's right. That's right.
and telling the truth.
Absolutely. Tell the truth. Don't play the, and if you're going to look at it as a game, the only game you should play is being your best self. Like, don't be, we all have moments, right? You know what I mean? We work out in the morning, retire, we get to work, like whatever the case may be. And we can bring that person with us. Or we could play the game and say, you know what? I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to turn on my best self, even when I don't feel like it. And that's what you do to navigate this legal system. That's how you transform your life and the situation that you're dealing with.
And potentially like save your family from a lot of issues.
Exactly. Because when you have issues with the legal system or when you go to jail, your entire family goes with you. And a lot of people don't realize that there are more people affected than just you based on the decisions that you're making.
Yeah. I've heard people give character witnesses for somebody and be like, this is going to impact me so much. Like, or they'll say like, this is half the income in my household, or I don't even work. And then now you have your family scrambling, trying to figure out how they're going to survive.
Absolutely. And you don't think about that. And I even have, individuals, who for a good reason they've done something that they feel is justified. Okay, I'm gonna defend Aria. We're on a date and he disrespected her, so I went ahead and beat him. Till the brakes were off, whatever the case may be. Right. So now you're going to jail. So the question is, well, who's going to defend her now? Like, who's going to be by her side for the next 6 months to a year? So you just really have to think down the line. Okay, I could do this in defense of or because of this, but there will be suffering for my family, my friends, and people who care about me. But we don't think about that in the moment. But I used to really preach that and teach that. I had a whole theory because now my new thing at the court is cycle breaker. But before that, it was finish first. Begin with the end in mind. Before you go off on the teller, before you walk in the store and decide to steal, think about the worst case scenario if you get caught. And if you begin with the end in mind, hopefully you'll make better decisions.
It's about that pause.
Absolutely.
That pause before we act is so important.
Absolutely.
I know jail is one outcome. There are others, though, especially in your courtroom. You've come up with some different scenarios that have been helpful to people.
Yes. We have now, instead of putting people on probation, we have reshaped our entire probation department. We call it the School of Transformation. I have an amazing team, Ms. Tiara Banks, who runs the probation department or transformation school. We have Mark Medley, who helps out there. We actually present individuals with the opportunity for growth. We have a ladies program that Mrs. Banks runs. We have the men's program that Mr. Medley runs. I do a program called Finish First. We have magistrates working with us. We have police officers. So we have it set up where you can actually win. I don't want to just put people in jail. I've turned our court into a place that will provide a service for growth. I figure as long as I'm the judge, I'm going to use my platform for that.
What's your favorite program?
It has to be the Finish First program, but I started that when I was a lawyer. So that program has been in existence for probably maybe 20 years. I mean, that long.
Wow.
In different courts, different cities. It's really nice to the point where even now other courts use it. Garfield, Cleveland Heights. So it's a program that I started and, just to see it grow, it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Which program do you think has made the biggest difference for people? Like tangible, like I haven't seen them in the courtroom again, or I've seen them in the grocery store and things are just different.
You know what? For me, what I've experienced is that it's the entire system, right? Because say, for instance, if you're a lady in our court, you may start with the Finish First program, and then you may go to the Mended program that's ran by Mrs. Banks. And the combination of those programs is really what shapes you into a new person. And I have heard it time and time again in stores, random places. Judge Dawson, thank you for putting me through the program. Thank you for what the Cycle Breaker program has done for me, for my life, for my family's life. So I love hearing that. But understand, I don't hear it all the time. So it's really rare. But I know that we're doing good work.
Yeah.
But when you hear it, it just, kind of reinforces that you're doing something good.
But tell me a little bit about why being a judge was so intriguing to you.
I started off in insurance and claims, but before that, music was my passion. But I started working in claims, and I saw how the claims adjusters were doing all the work and the attorneys were getting all the credit. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be an attorney. So as I was working, I would go to law school at night. So I worked all day, law school all night. And once I became a lawyer, I said to myself, you know what? I'm pretty good at winning these cases. I can convince a jury that my client's not guilty, but am I really helping people? And let me tell you what was the case that really changed my life. I had an individual who had committed a robbery, but interestingly, he robbed his friends. But he knew all the money was illegal. So, sometimes the mentality is different. However, when he went in to rob his friends, he had on a mask, but because they're friends, they recognized his voice. So they basically were like, I know it's you. Let's say his name is Johnny. I know it's you, Johnny, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? When you have a great lawyer, that alone doesn't provide a conviction. So I won the case. He didn't go to jail for any robbery. But about 2 weeks later, he was killed by his friends because they felt so disrespected, so played, so whatever, that they actually killed him. And that really touched me. I said, you know what? I won the case, but I didn't really win because maybe if he was in jail, he could have transformed his life. He could have turned things around.
Yeah.
So was I really doing a service? And it was that moment that I decided that I wanted to be a judge because I want to be able to affect change more than just defending people.
Wow. Yeah, that would stick with me.
Yeah. I've never forgotten that case.
Jeez.
And I still every now and then I'll run into some of his family members, and I've had many cases like that. As a defense attorney, you can imagine a case where you have a woman who was charged because she met a guy at a bar, nice to him, took him home, and then her boyfriend and his friends were waiting to rob him or assault him. So many tragic situations that I see through the criminal defense end that I said, you know what, I really want to help people learn how to be the best they can be. So as judge, I can catch you at your worst and transform you into a better version. That's my goal.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about live streaming your court sessions.
Yes.
Because that's pretty risky.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So on TikTok, I have over 800,000 followers. On Instagram, maybe 75 or something like that. And I think it all started by them seeing some of my live streams from court. And the reason that I do it is because I want to use the platform to educate people on how to avoid this legal system. In fact, when I was an attorney, I wrote a book called The Legal Matrix, How the System is Trying to Control Your Life. I really feel that way. I really believe that this system is designed to catch you, to, expose your flaws and criminalize you. So I want to show individuals through my platform, through the online streaming, that you can navigate the system in a way that it doesn't hurt you. Now, of course, that's risky, right? Because we're in a time politically where if you say the wrong thing or if you have an opinion that people don't like, you're going to be canceled, you're going to be attacked, you're going to be vilified. But I tell you, Aria, my position now is that I'm willing to risk this title of being a judge if it can help people. Because I think at the end of the day, I'll be judged by how many people did I help versus, did you like that wonderful title of being a judge? That means nothing. We're all leaders, even without a title. So that doesn't matter. What matters to me is helping people. So my live streams, I am committed to it as long as it's used to help people be the best that they can be.
What are some of the comments, some of the questions that you get while you're live streaming? Because I feel like if I'm watching something, I'm like, well, why did he say it that way? Or why did he do that way? Or like, he should have got more than that.
Oh, yes. That I hear that a lot because, again, I'm a judge of compassion, right? So one of the things I hear all the time was, I would have put that person under the jail, or, why is he so soft on crime? Which I'm not. But, when you're watching it on TV, you just want to see everybody go down. So I'm like, look, I want to help people be the best they can be, so I get that comment a lot. And then honestly, unfortunately, in this day and time with people being emboldened by, I don't know, their authenticity or being who they are, I get a lot of comments that are not so nice, they'll call me names, there'll be the derogatory names, there'll be, the racial slurs and things like that. So those are the things you have to ignore, right?
Yeah.
And know that the people who enjoy what you're doing, who gets something out of it, let that voice be louder. Because I do get that. I do get a lot of thank you so much. You're an asset to our community. Why don't you run for mayor? You should run for president. All these things. What I mean? Not that I would ever do that, but it's good to see that some people just like to see a genuinely good human being. That's what I try to be on, in the court.
I want to take a little step back. Earlier, we talked about the different punishments that you hand out, jail, programs, yoga.
Yes.
Yoga as a punishment.
Yes.
I can't imagine the person's face when you're like, I just think you need some yoga to start to kick this off.
Yeah.
So how does that go about? You're like 10 sessions of yoga by March 1st?
Absolutely. That's exactly how it goes. And I'll tell you, that's one I have always received great responses from defendants who do yoga. I mean, it opens up their world. And for me, when I'm teaching the class, to look in the back of the room and see somebody who was there in my courtroom for assault or disorderly conduct, to see them in child's pose or shavasana, laying out, or trying to do downward facing dog, just to see them expanding, it means so much to me. But yes, yoga is one of the programs that I sentence people to. And it's funny because it's a sentence, but it really should be an honor because I am the best yogi in the world.
Period.
So to be able to come to my class, but no, it is wonderful. I love it. And it really opens up individuals and they don't expect it at all. But imagine in a courtroom full of people who haven't, gone through the system yet. And they're like, oh yeah, Judge Dawson, thank you for the yoga classes. I'm like, oh yeah, it feels good. So
that's right.
It's just a great extension of what we do at the School of Transformation.
What do you think people can benefit from doing yoga? I know we've talked a little bit about like taking that pause. But what else? Why would that be a good sentence for somebody? And is there a line like, okay, like if you killed somebody, I'm not going to sentence you to yoga, obviously. Yeah. But like, what's the line?
What you plotting on me in yoga?
Right.
It's normally, I look at the great thing about my court is it's a municipal court. So though I see the more serious crimes, the murders, the kidnappings and things like that, the rapes, I send them to the county. So everybody in my court is either, assault, domestic violence, which is still pretty bad, and down, right? So I don't have really violent offenders. So I don't mind sending everybody to yoga. But what's interesting about it is when they're in the class, I think the biggest benefit is the ability to calm your body and mind. Like every other thing that we do, we're on.
Yeah.
When you work out, you're on. When you're running, you're on. When you're lifting weights, you're on. But in yoga, we want you to free your mind of all of that. In fact, the reason from what the yogis say that we practice all of these poses is because eventually they're going to give our bodies enough strength to meditate for hours. Because if you think about it, if I say, Aria, let's jump into, let's cross our legs, sit here and, meditate for an hour. Eventually your tailbone will hurt, your back will hurt, your hips will hurt. Yeah. But if you've been doing 25 downward facing dogs every day and you've been doing extended mountain pose and folding and bending, you'll say, you know what, Judge, I can sit here with you for 25 minutes and meditate. So the purpose of yoga is to free your mind, give you the ability to release, relax, and meditate. And if I can bring that to someone who's never practiced yoga or who has, criminal issues or family issues or addiction issues, that's an honor for me to be able to do it.
Yeah. What are you hoping those lessons will translate into? Like you're in a situation, it could go left. What are you pulling from yoga to make sure you're not making the same decisions you did before?
You're pulling the pause that we talked about. You're able to slow down your thoughts and you're able to take those deep breaths. So in my class, which sometimes I make challenging on purpose, I'll tell you, hey, the way you get into this pose is, I call it the way of the transformation or the transition, power transition. And what you do is you determine where you want to go. So you determine the decision you want to make. You take a deep breath, you exhale, you take the path of least resistance. Now you're there, breathe again and relax. The same thing about criminal activity or behavior. You know what you want to accomplish. I don't want to go to jail. So now take a deep breath. What's the path that will lead me away from jail? Go there, breathe, and relax. So the whole principles that I, bring in the yoga studio apply in the courtroom and in our communities.
Nice.
That's what makes my classes different, I think.
Yeah.
And my teacher training program, we actually certify new yoga teachers. And I tell them, when you go through my program, you're not only going to learn how to be a great yogi, do great poses, but you're going to learn how to be a leader, a great leader. So that's what I focus on.
East Cleveland.
East
We got to
Cleveland.
talk about East Cleveland
Yes.
specifically. What are why do you stay?
Oh, wow, you sound like my brother. Um, because it's funny. Wayne has always said, I want you to, go be a judge somewhere else, go to Supreme Court, all these wonderful things. But I love being in East Cleveland. I was born there. I went to all the schools there. I know what the city can be. So I love the fact that I'm able to serve a city, not only where I was, born and raised, but I also made the same mistakes that people that come before me made. You know what I mean? I've had the same temptations. I've made bad decisions. So to be able to serve that community means a lot to me. And interesting, Lo, is that with law, people come from all over the place. So
Yeah.
I may just be in East Cleveland, but I'm going to see people from Solon, from Cleveland Heights, because unfortunately, because of the reputation of East Cleveland, people come there and commit crimes. Just to be honest with you, they figure that it's easier to get away with it, or that the police force isn't as big or as serious. So that's the challenge. I want the best for the city, but I know it comes with challenges.
Yeah. How do you love East Cleveland when people are tearing it down every turn?
Honestly, first of all, and this sounds canned, but you have to love yourself, right? Because if you love yourself, then you can exude love. So when I see people in East Cleveland, or I see the city, what I see is potential. But it's not even just East Cleveland. When I travel other cities, I like to go into the inner city. I like to get a vibe for the city. And I see people who are just trying to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
I see people who are, affected by mental health issues, who are living in poverty, and they're making decisions based on that. So when I look at the people of East Cleveland, where I'm from, I have nothing but love and compassion. So I want to help them so bad. Now, when I think of the politics of East Cleveland and how, it's kind of been drained a little bit, and really it's ignored. I look at it like this. East Cleveland is a very small city. It wouldn't take millions of dollars to help get the city back on track. I mean, literally, we're about to, as a state fund, the Browns move into a whole new facility what they're going to spend to build a new stadium, you could probably fix 20 East Clevelands, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
all the problems. So the other part of it is, you're right, when people kind of down East Cleveland, or look bad at the city, I look at the fact that they're not helping. You know what I mean? What are you going to do to help? It's easy to point your finger and say, that's a bad city. They're underfunded. They're living in poverty. But let's get together and help. You know why? Because they're people. They're real people. It's not just a city with a name. They're people who live there, and they matter.
And it didn't always used to be like this.
No, not at all. It was a beautiful suburb of Cleveland. When my mom moved there, we were, she always tells us we were one of the first African-American families to live in East Cleveland. So it was an honor to live in that city. And the courts were serious. The police were serious. So you knew not to go to East Cleveland, or you'd be, caught up in the court, and we'd come down with you pretty hard. Now it's changed, but I wanted to get back to its glory. I do.
What would you say is the most frequent crime that you're seeing come into your courtroom?
Yes. The most frequent crime right now is domestic violence. And the sad thing about it is that the offenders are getting younger and younger, because there's dating violence, there's relationship violence. So I see where now, based on all the stress that we have in the world, whether it's the war, the economy, and just everyday life, people are acting out at home. And it's not, and Aria, it's funny because we'll look at these situations and say, you know what? I would never commit domestic violence, right? I would never do that. And maybe you wouldn't. But have you ever called your boyfriend and had an attitude with him based on something that happened at work? You know what I mean? It lingered. It's really the same thing. So it's our inability to manage our stress and taking it out on someone that cares about us, or who trusts us, who's let down their guards, and now you're being aggressive. So it's happening more and more, domestic violence. And I really call it a form of terrorism, because again, like I said, I trust you, I love you, and you're going to put this upon me, this violence, this aggression.
Yeah.
It's really terrible. And then now I'm stuck in this house, and I have to deal with it in close proximity, you know what I mean? While you're going off, you're crashing out. So domestic violence, not only do I just don't like it at all, it is the most frequent case that I have: domestic violence, dating violence, assaults, and things like that.
Are you seeing it more like boyfriend, girlfriend, married people? Is it family member to family member, like
Wow.
non-romantic?
Great question. I see it in two ways. I want to say boyfriend, girlfriend, in the sense that, oftentimes it's just shocking that people aren't even married, but I feel that I can put my hands on you and boss you around and own you as a piece of property. But it happens because we have a child or we live together, because those are the legal requirements for a charge of domestic violence. It's not just that I'm dating you. Either I'm living with you or we have a child together. So
Interesting.
yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
Yes. So family or household members. So either I live with you, we have a child, or we're family members. So when you said family, it could be me and my cousin at a family reunion. But I see that also. I see where families are, so stressed. And a lot of times we express ourselves in sarcasm and jokes and things like that. And when they get a little too heavy, now we have violence. Now
Yep.
we have issues.
It's not fun anymore.
It's not funny anymore. Now we're fighting.
Yeah.
We go from funny to fighting, and from fighting to jail,
Yeah.
and from jail to yoga. So, then we transform them.
Yeah. And honestly, if we had all just took a breath and been like, hey, that kind of hurt my feelings, or hey, that's my boundary, you went a little too far, maybe we wouldn't have had to fight.
Absolutely.
But I think that's sometimes hard for people. I think it's hard for people to say, hey, you hurt my feelings.
Right.
Instead of now it's like, what you trying to do?
Yes. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not even the person's fault, right? It's our fault, right? Because we're so caught up in how we feel and what's important to us. I mean, Aria, we should all just live with more compassion. Because imagine, you and I have a great professional relationship. Imagine if I walked in today and, it's like, Aria, last week when I was around you or here, I added you to my text message, my morning positive messages, and you never send a like, you never say anything. Aria, that hurt my feelings. You, not knowing me well, like, what is wrong with this dude? I don't even know him. So what I'm saying is, like you said, it takes courage to acknowledge that, hey, you crossed the boundary or my feelings are hurt. But the problem is we are like, we don't have time for that. You're like, guy, I'm about to do my show. I had to walk the dog. I have you know what I mean? Like, so we as people, we should create the space to make it safe for individuals to say, you know what, my feelings were hurt. Take a moment to say, well, what did I do? Oh, well, okay, you know what, I get that. I understand that. I'm human. Maybe I'll do better. Maybe I won't. Maybe remove me from the list. I don't know, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You and I and people, we have to create the space so people have the courage to tell you how they really feel so they don't explode.
Yeah.
And they don't end up in the legal system.
Do you think that has something to do with just like that machoism?
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that you hurt my feelings because then I'm gonna get dogged for that.
Right. And we
So
have gotten dogged for it,
Yeah.
So now, you build it up, I mentioned before my framework for transformation is being a cycle breaker. And what I'm talking about now is energy and cycle loads, which basically your interactions every day, they leave an impression on you all day long. So from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, and depending upon that, your mood will change a million times. But if it's a bad impression, it becomes heavy. It becomes a load. So you're right. If you dog me out enough times for telling you how I feel, not only am I going to shut down, but now I'm going to build this whole energy around me that's so hardened. So when I do something, I'm like, yeah, I did that. So what?
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, all I needed was somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So that's why we try to create all these other programs so that people learn ways to express themselves and not end up in the legal system.
Also, I just want to point out, I thought your texts were mass texts. So I didn't want to like it and then blow up a whole bunch of other people's
Oh, no,
phones.
no,
And
no.
I didn't know if you were using like some kind of third party. And I was like, even if I respond, he's not going to see it.
No. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because people, they're really individual and they're,
I didn't know that because
Yeah.
one of them you sent me, I was like, oh, this is right on time.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, I was like, oh, I can't respond to it.
Yes, you can.
I thought it was just like an automated thing.
And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, as you know, we're human. Every
Yeah.
now and then there are people who will respond. I'm like, oh, okay, so they are listening. And then there are some people who will run into me or come to yoga and they'll say, Judge, I just want to pause and say thank you for those messages. I'm like, okay, it really feels good. So yes,
Okay.
they are personal. But again, that's just me, saying, you know what? I just want to help people be the best they can be. Like,
Yeah.
how many judges will take the time Monday through Friday to send a morning message, just a positivity. And I tell people all the time, I need as much as, I'm sending it out for you, but I need it. I need to write that. I need to feel that. I need to experience that, because we're all going through things, ups and downs all day long.
All day long.
So, yeah.
And we just hope that the downs don't send us to your courtroom.
Right. Exactly. Because that's what happens. The downs, you break, you crash out, and the next thing you know, you're in the courtroom. And it happens all the time because, there's just a natural resistance oftentimes, right? To authority, to people, like you said, crossing boundaries.
Yeah.
And police officers and community members, a lot of times there's just this major collision. And I see it all the time.
Yeah. Oh, that's got to be tough to take home.
Yeah. But you know what? Luckily, I don't take it home as much as you would think. I've been really good with being able to end my sessions and go home. But every now and then some things will linger. I'll think about things, but not as much as you would think. Luckily, and I think that's the yoga. That's the ability to actually let it go and know that I'm doing every single day. I'm doing the best that I can do. For instance, not only before I go on the bench, I'll put on my robe. I'll say a prayer, even if it's really quickly, Lord, help me, bless those who I can, and, give correction with compassion to the other people that, deserve it. And with that being said, I'm able to say I did my best and I'm done. Even if I've sent you to jail, even if we've argued in court, which you shouldn't do. Don't argue with the judge. It never works out.
Oh my gosh. I hate when people do that. I'm like, this
You
isn't
see it.
helping. This isn't helping.
Oh my gosh, it is terrible. Like, what makes you think you can argue with a judge? I mean, but again, that's this new generation. I can do what I want to do. Well, okay, but there are clear consequences to that action.
Yeah.
So, and it's a bad example for you, your family, your kids, everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I go home with a clear conscience because I know I've done the best that I can do.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Landline. You can watch all of our episodes on YouTube, on 19 News Plus, and right here, wherever you get your podcasts.